Hi guys, how are you today?
How you going?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Good.
Nice to meet both of you too. Congratulations on this movie. My gosh, it is extremely powerful and very well done. Sam, let's just start with you because this story is, completely off my radar. I would not have known about this. Let's face it, we know there's gangs everywhere. But how did it come onto your radar? And I know it's based on some, inspired by true events.
Yeah, so I grew up in Porirua where the film was shot, and but I didn't have much to do with gang members. I saw them walking around and just sort of stayed away from them. And then I guess our worlds collided when a friend of mine, his younger brother, was actually murdered by a mongrel mob member, and so that sort of had a pretty big impact on me, made me angry, made me question why gang members exist, and that sort of set me off into this trying to discover and work out this world. And so I made a short film called Lambs, which was about the young offenders who sort of ended up often emerging into these gang members. And yeah, it was sort of just hearing their stories that I found really profound, hearing them talk about their home life and the situations that, got them into that environment.
Yeah.
And through that, I met these adult gang members and heard their stories and heard, same thing. Often a lot of them had come through state care. And in New Zealand, we have a pretty strong history of abuse in state care. Yeah. And that set them down a really tragic path where, the sort of their relationship with authority and society was, really distrustful and formed. And they had formed these sort of family groups by themselves, these bands to look after each other. And that they were the foundation of gangs.
Amazing, amazing. And Jake, congratulations on your performance, because first of all, you're unrecognizable, which is just unbelievable.
Thank you.
You really, really blew me out of the water with this one. When Sam even came to you and said, I want you to play this guy, with a name called Damage on top of it, so you kind of know what you're getting into here. What was the reaction, and how on earth did you even prepare mentally for it?
It was about a 6-month process, I think, the auditions. There was sort of, I'd sent a tape over to New Zealand to start with. Then Sam came over to Sydney and I met him. And then I flew over and did some sort of chemistry tests with Chelsea and a few of the potential Moses. So it was a long process. But as soon as I read the character description and the synopsis, it was something that I felt like I had to do. I've been waiting for something like this since I started. It's like my Romper Stomper or my Animal Kingdom. That, to me, that's what I saw it as. And so I was pretty I was happy to do anything I possibly could in my power to get this role. And so when I finally did get the nod for it, I was very excited, and I knew I had a big journey ahead of me. But that's that's what you wish for as an artist. You want these kind of roles. So initially, I sort of read everything I possibly could on the gang culture in New Zealand. There's quite a lot of material out there. There's a lot of clips and stuff, and a lot of memoirs and that kind of thing. But it wasn't actually till I went over about a month before we started shooting. I spent a lot of time with Sam, and we met some current and ex Mongrel Mob members and Black Power members, and just sitting down talking to them and hearing their stories was pretty powerful, I think. And it wasn't till, I couldn't get a hold of Damage till right up till we started filming. I was sort of, I hadn't found him yet. And it wasn't till one of the particular, a particular ex-gang member I spoke to and asked him about his childhood. And, he started tearing up, and no one had asked them about their childhood. They all, that's just something that people don't do. So to hear their stories and see the humanity in these guys, and I literally just started looking at them as they're just scared little boys in these, trapped in these big brutes. So it was coming at a different angle like that was really important. Just finding the little boy inside Damage. The big thing I think for me was I was sort of struggling through the rehearsal process. I was worried I wasn't giving Sam enough. It was, I was probably overdoing it, which I tend to do quite easily. And he kept saying, less, just bring it down. And then one day full makeup and hair. I didn't have the patches on, but Sam took me for a drive to the local shopping centre, which is like a big mall. And we just walked through. He was about 10 paces behind me, and we just walked through the, public dressed with this, and watching people part ways, and the
Yes.
way that the reactions that you'd get off people was really, that to me was the most important thing, I think, getting into the headspace, because you really got a sense of how lonely and isolated these guys are from society, and how people judge them purely on a few tattoos on their face. And I went through a whole range of being scared myself, to then being, quite resenting and quite angry at people for judging me just because of this. And that, by the end of it, we didn't talk much about the experience, but it was, I think, Sam, it was a genius move from him. But that then just, to me, then that sort of just flipped me straight into who he was. And and it's pretty dark sort of space, but we were, we had a good bunch of people around and stuff. So it was,
I can imagine. Now, Sam, I was going to ask you, because Jake touched on something that I wanted to ask you, because I think it is really important to show humanity in these people. And I think that we see this in this film. There's no question about it. Sure, there's violence, it's necessary. It has to be. But at the core of it, it's showing these guys are human. And now, after hearing these stories about how they came up, it even makes it more poignant. So Sam, for you, I guess this had to have been the most important message that you wanted to get across with this film.
Absolutely. This was never going to be the sort of film where, if someone, shoots someone, they sort of just blow their guns, blow the smoke away and walk away really cool. It's about finding the humans beneath it, because that's who I met, when I met with these gang members. And you hear the surprising things about them, like that they love 10-pin bowling, or that they grow a worm farm, or that, whatever. They're surprising in so many ways. And I think with New Zealand public in general, I think there's this massive amounts of fear and ignorance around who these gang members are and what they've been through and what led them to those decisions. And so for me, that was the most important thing, was to find, exactly that humanity to them.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because we see another side of New Zealand that, listen to, I'm talking to you from Toronto, North America, where all we know is Lord of the Rings. We know Middle Earth, whatever. We see a completely different side of New Zealand in this film.
Indeed, yeah. And, I think you get a glimpse of it in Once Were Warriors, which is a classic New Zealand film.
Phenomenal film,
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It is part of our fabric, and it's something that's really important for us to wrestle with as well, to tell these stories. I think in particular the state care thing, it's something which has really been just sort of pushed to one side and forgotten. And I think a lot of the guys who have been through that environment really have told me that they appreciate the fact that this is sort of delving into that and revealing that, look, a whole lot of kids went through this, and just to be heard and seen is really important to them.
Absolutely. Jake, I want to wrap up with you, because I first of all, the makeup process must have been insane. Like to have, oh my goodness, I don't even know how you let somebody come that close to do that.
It actually wasn't too bad
to me, because people know you, especially from Australia. I mean, you were in soaps. Like, this is a completely different ball game for you. And like I said, you did such a great job. I wanted to know, after the end of the day, how did you change? Did it change you personally?
I mean, I like each day to day, or just the whole process?
Just in terms of the process when it was done, and kind of you look back and go, what did I learn? How did it change me?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty. It was all a bit of a whirlwind. Like I look back, and it's even filming's very blurry. I watched it again the other day for the first time in a while, and I obviously remember doing it, but there's a lot of blurry moments there where I don't quite remember. But
sure.
I think, if anything, it's just gave me a better sense of, not judging people, and also having, empathy, and you don't know what someone's backstory is, whether it's someone that cuts you off on the street, or, a drunk abusing you, at a bar or something. You don't know what they've been through day to day, let alone, what their childhood was like. And I think just having a little bit of more of an awareness of that was something that I definitely took out. I mean, it's always been something that I feel like has been a strong point. I'm not a very judgy person, and I'll sort of talk to anyone, but just sort of, I suppose, living through it with the film, and meeting people that have, that constantly go through their life judged and abused by the system. I mean, you treat a young child like that in any circumstance, and what do you expect? Like, you can't expect a kid to go through abuse of any kind and turn out and be a pillar of society. So it's just opening my eyes to that, and how prevalent it is too. Like, you sort of, I'm from Australia, and I knew of the gangs in New Zealand, but I didn't know of the systemic, how it all began and why these men are like this. So to me, that was a really eye opener. And I think it's a good conversation for people to be having now. Like, it relates everywhere. Every country has the same kind of story, I imagine. You abuse young children and put them into abusive care and dysfunctional families. There's gonna be a few of them that turn into animals. And if you want to fix that, you've got to fix the problem down there. So.
Absolutely. Well, it's fascinating. I could talk to you guys for another half hour, but I know there's other people waiting for you. So congratulations to both of you on this. It's really powerful, like I said, and best of luck with it. And I hope one day that we can meet in person after this pandemic.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.